This is the Dangerous Waters podcast, where we dive deep into dangerous waters. I'm your host today. My name is Alex, and in today's episode, we'll be discussing what's happening around the world as well as at home. First, we have some more updates regarding Syria. We have recent economic and military moves coming from China, and developments from the failed coup in South Korea. At home, we're looking at a shakeup in RNC leadership, Biden's disappearance from the White House, as well as major news coming in from New York City. Let's get straight into it. Welcome back to the show. In this episode, we are going to be covering a lot of topics, so I'll try to keep it as concise as possible. Now, before we get into the news, I just want to share a personal update. I am very excited to be starting this podcast. I have a lot of energy, and I hope I can continue this in the long run. So if you're interested in supporting me, make sure to subscribe to the podcast, like the video or the episode, whatever it is, drop a comment, share this episode with your friends, do anything that you want to do. All support is appreciated. It's really not easy to make these podcasts. There's a lot of work involved behind the scenes, and let me know if you want me to go into that. I could talk about the kind of work that I'm doing in between the episodes to make it happen. But anyways, let's get to the point. Let's talk about the news. In Syria, we have major developments coming in. Israel is continuing their airstrike campaign on Syrian territory. They have destroyed over 100 targets, including air defense systems, remaining Russian fighter jets, and other weapons and military bases installations are currently being targeted. This is within the span of 24 hours, so major movement coming in from the Israeli side. We also have news and video footage of anti-vehicle barricades being created in Mount Hernon to prevent potential border advances from rebel groups. Now, to mark the importance of this, Mount Hernon, as I said in a previous episode, is actually pretty deep into Syria. It is outside of the Golan Heights and even outside of the UN peacekeeping zone. So Israel has effectively marched their way into sovereign Syrian territory with the strategic purpose of trying to capture this mountain so that they can have a grand view over the area. This is the largest and tallest position in the entire area. So if they have control over this, they have incredible surveillance capabilities and they can see any potential advance. Now, whether you agree with that or not is totally up to you, but that is what Israel just did. Alongside this, we have more clarifications on the American airstrikes that have also happened in central and eastern Syria. 75 sites have been targeted according to the U.S. Central Command, and these include, quote, ISIS leaders, operatives, and camps. We don't really know the extent of this damage other than what was reported. A lot of this stuff is not really recorded and is not publicized, but let's see what happens. According to CENTCOM, they were using B-52 bombers, F-15s, and A-10 Warthogs for their mission, with the objective of continuing their defeat ISIS mission in Syria. These American strikes do actually carry some pretty large implications for the United States. We have not seen aggressive airstrikes like this in quite a long time coming from the U.S. side. We've seen them from Israel very often, but the U.S. overall, since the Assad regime has been in place, has somewhat, I would even categorize it as a cautious and even scared approach against targeting Assad's regime, against targeting them directly, probably because of fear of potential escalation with Iran or Russia. But no matter the case, now that Assad is gone, we've been seeing a lot larger, extensive military actions coming in from the U.S. And honestly, I expect these types of military actions to continue into the next Trump administration. We also have a bit of foreshadowing coming up. Currently, Turkey and the Syrian Democratic Forces, aka the Kurds that are US-backed, have started feuding in Syria. Turkey launched unmanned drones and airstrikes in Syria Defense Forces controlled territory. In response, the SDF have also launched FPV drone strikes against Turkish armed rebels. So a lot of stuff is going down here. This is probably going to set the pace for the future of Syria, considering the SDF has a large established foothold in the region. They control most, if not all, of the oil production in Syria, and at the same time, they are backed by the United States. Turkey, as well, which I've said in previous episodes, they have a large interest in trying to cripple the SDF because they view them as terrorists, as a threat to their sovereignty. So this is going to set the pace. This infighting going on between groups is probably going to continue in the long run. We also have a statement coming in from Saudi Arabia in which they issued, quote, satisfaction of the events in Syria, and they called for unity and cohesion moving forward. Obviously, this statement is sort of a message to reaffirm their support for the US-backed position, and we've seen in recent years Saudi Arabia's willingness to cooperate with the US and potentially normalize relations with Israel in order to do so. So this is going to be another major trend we're seeing in Middle Eastern politics, the Saudi Arabian angle and their progressive closeness to the United States. Finally, we also have news that Hamas provided names and details of the current hostages that they are taking control of post October 7th attack. So during October 7th, Hamas took around 1,200 mostly Israeli hostages, and these people, a lot of them have not really been accounted for properly, so Hamas has done some proper accounting, record keeping as much as they can so that they can understand the conditions of the hostages that they currently hold. These details will probably be used in future negotiations with the incoming Trump administration. Now let's take a look at China. New military exercises in the coasts next to Taiwan were just announced by China, and these will last from now until December 11th. Taiwan has said they've spotted over 90 Chinese naval and coast ships near the coasts of Taiwan, and they have put their military at the highest levels of readiness. This is something that China has done before, and they will continue to do because they really do see Taiwan as a major strategic focus of the future of the country. This is a conflict that will continue, and right now we are lucky it hasn't escalated into war, and let's hope that it stays that way. Now in South Korea, Yonhap News, which is a South Korean news outlet, has just reported that President Yoon, who just conducted a failed coup on December 3rd using martial law, has now been banned from exiting the country. For a little bit of background, the president of South Korea recently imposed martial law on the country on December 3rd in an attempt to, in his view, root out North Korean influences, but really it was seen internationally as a grip on power, a sort of authoritarian type of control scheme, which ultimately backfired. Their parliament was able to unanimously vote to stop the martial law, and he complied a couple of hours later. This is a really humiliating loss for President Yoon, and despite this major setback, he will not be stepping down from the presidency, at least for now, but he has been banned from exiting the country. There will probably be a lot of litigation coming his way very, very soon. Now let's go take a look at what is going on at home. Lara Trump just announced that she is stepping down from RNC leadership. She was the driving force behind a lot of the RNC push into making Trump's presidency. in 2024. However, her stepping down from this position, she is coming in from a position of power, and this is most likely in anticipation of a potential replacement of Marco Rubio in the Senate. Because Marco Rubio was tasked by Trump to become the next Secretary of State, we are looking at a new appointed replacement for his Senate seat, most likely being Lara Trump. Let's check in with Biden. According to a new Politico article, Biden has, quote, left the Oval Office weeks ago. Another quote from the article says that Biden has effectively disappeared from the radar in the wake of Democrats' bruising electoral loss, and a senior Democrat has been quoted as saying, "There is no leadership coming from the White House. There is a total vacuum." So this is not really looking good for Biden, but what do we expect? He's kind of getting there in terms of his age. He's not really in the sharpest mind, which we've seen throughout the past couple of months, and was the reason why he even dropped out from consideration for the 2024 election. Plus, he only really has around a month left of his presidency. Trump is going to be coming in soon, and Trump in many ways has already taken the stage, taken center stage, in fact, and is trying to make deals, talk to world leaders, and really shape the next administration right here, right now. We also have a lot of news coming in from New York City. Just now, Daniel Penny has been found not guilty of his outstanding charge in the subway murder case. It was a quick and unanimous jury consensus for the acquittal. So a little bit more context over here, what's going on with Daniel Penny. He was in a New York City subway. He found another man named Jordan Neely potentially posing a threat to other subway riders, and he decided to constrain him by basically putting a chokehold on Neely's neck and waited for police to arrive. Police arrived on scene. Neely was still alive at the time, but shortly after, he was found dead. So this case was kind of looking into what was going on there. Highly politicized case, but Daniel Penny's first charge was second-degree manslaughter, which was actually dropped by the prosecutors themselves, and the second charge of criminally negligent homicide just received a acquittal. So Daniel Penny is fully acquitted in this case. He was found innocent by unanimous jury consensus. We also have news coming in regarding the mayor of New York City. Mayor Adams has signaled support for Trump's deportation policy. Now, a lot of people will say this is a major shock. They've never expected Mayor Adams to be coming in with this position and actually supporting Trump on this deportation effort. But if you actually look at multiple statements that he's made throughout the years, really since 2021, practically as soon as the migrants started moving their way into New York City, he's changed his tune by then. As soon as they came in, he was saying how much of a financial burden the migrants were to the city, and this is really just a evolution of his already consistent statements coming out against the massive migrant influx into New York City. And so much so that he's considering signing an executive order to bypass New York City's sanctuary status in order to make these deportations happen. As I was recording this episode, new major news just came in regarding the CEO of the United Healthcare murder case. A possible suspect has just been detained in Pennsylvania. He's being questioned about the events, and a very interesting aspect of this new development is that he actually had a handwritten manifesto. It was found on him while he was being detained, and according to a New York Times article, it, quote, criticized healthcare companies for putting profits above care, according to senior law enforcement officials. So, what does this mean? It is probable that this murder and the motive behind the murder came from this man himself. I don't believe now, with this information coming in, that he was a hired hit, and more than likely, he conducted this assassination on his own accord. That was a lot of news. Thanks for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. I hope I can see you again in the next episode. With that being said, take it easy and have a great rest of your day.